Chapter 5, the purity of devotional service. Before this, we discuss how devotional service surpasses liberation. Now, 5th chapter describes about the purity of devotional service. 1.2, that is 1.2.60 to 1.2.71. 11 verses are there in this chapter. Kim cha shastratah shruyate bhaktau nramatrasyadhikarita sarvadhikaritam magha salasya bhruvatayatah dhrashtantita vashishtena hari bhakti nrupam prati. So the scriptures say that any human being is qualified for bhakti. Just as everyone is qualified to take a bath during the month of Magh, Vasishtha, while speaking to the king, has given that example concerning devotion to the Lord. Like to take bath in the holy river, anybody and everyone is qualified. It is not that only Brahmin can come and take bath. In the same way, bhakti is not restricted to any caste. It is for everyone. So everyone is eligible to perform devotion. Adhikar. Adhikar is there for everyone. Okay. Ashoganija Prabhu, read the first paragraph.
Hare Krishna Mataji. All of the previous instructions imparted by Srila Rupa Goswami in his broad statements can be summarized thus. As long as one is materially inclined or desirous of merging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. Next, Rupa Goswami states that devotional service is transcendental to all material considerations and that it is not limited to any particular country, class, society, or circumstance. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is transcendental and has no cause. Devotional service is executed without any hope for gain, and it cannot be checked by any material circumstances. It is open for all without any distinction, and it is the constitutional occupation of the living entities.
So Prabhupada writes constitutional occupation.
Constitutional occupation of the living entities.
Okay, from here, Krishna Priya Mataji read. This 1.2.60 goes to 3 paragraphs. So first is over 2. Read.
Hare Krishna Mataji. In the Middle Ages, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associated Lord Nityananda, a class of priestly person claimed to be the descendants of Nityananda, calling themselves the Goswami caste. They further claimed that the practice and spreading of devotional service belonged only to their particular class, which was known as Nityananda Vamsha. In this way, they exercised their artificial power for some time, until Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura, the powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it has turned out successfully, and it is now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already at the status of being a high-class Brahmana. So, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura's struggle for this movement has come out successful. Shall I continue, Mataji?
Yes, another one paragraph. Continue.
Okay. It is on the basis of his position that anyone can now become a Gaudiya Vaishnava from one part of the world or any part of the universe. Anyone who is a pure Vaishnava is situated transcendentally and therefore the higher qualification in the material world, namely to be in the mode of goodness, has already been achieved by such a person. Our Krishna conscious movement in the Western world is based on the above mentioned position of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, our spiritual master. On his authority, we are claiming members from all sections of the Western countries. The so-called Brahmanas claim that one who is not born in a Brahmana family cannot receive the sacred thread and cannot become a high-grade Vaishnava. But we do not accept such a theory because it is not supported by Rupa Goswami or by the strength of the various scriptures.
So-called Brahmanas claim that one who is not born into a Brahmin family cannot receive the sacred thread and cannot become high-grade Vaishnava. Why we are not accepting? Because it is not supported by Rupa Goswami and by any scriptures. In fact, the scriptures say Bhakti is not restricted to any caste. Bhakti is for everyone. 1.2.61 Yatha padme sarve adhikarino yatra hari bhaktau yatha nrupa. Now this is the topic. And Bhakti is for everyone. Bhakti is not restricted to particular community or a particular country or a particular sect, but Bhakti is for everyone. That is why Srila Prabhupada took Bhakti around the world, made everyone chant the holy name of Krishna. Also, and the 1.62, this paragraph has 2 verses. Kashi Khande Chatata Antyaja api tad rashire shankachakrankadarinaha samprapya Vaishnavim diksham dikshita iva sambhavu. So Kashi Khand also says that in that country the outcasts receiving Vaishnava initiation wearing the marks of conscience disc shine like sacrificial priests. So all men are qualified for bhakti. That is what Jiva Goswami says. Kashi Khanda speaks on that. Dikshita means he means a person performing sacrifice. So everyone is qualified to take up bhakti. Okay, Neeraj Prabhu, please continue.
So Srila Rupa Goswami specifically mentions here that every man has the birthright to accept devotional service and to become Krishna conscious. He has given many evidences from many scriptures, and he has especially quoted one passage from Padma Purana, wherein the sage Vashishta tells King Dilipa, "My dear king, everyone has the right to execute devotional service, just as he has the right to take early bath in the month of Magh, December, January." There is more evidence in the Skanda Purana, in the Kashi Khand portion, where it is said, in the country known as Mayur Dhwaja, the lower caste people who are considered less than Shudras are also initiated in the Vaishnava cult of devotional service. And when they are properly dressed with tilak on their bodies and beads in their hands and on their necks, they appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. In fact, they look so very beautiful that immediately they surpass the ordinary Brahmanas. Should I continue,
63rd and, wait. 63rd and 64th verse goes again to 3 paragraphs. Api cha ananushthanato dosho bhakti anganam prajayate na karmanam akaranadesha bhakti adhikarinam nishidhacharato daivat prayashchitam tu nochitam iti Vaishnava Shastranam rahasyam tat vidam matam. So the persons qualified for bhakti is at fault for failing to perform all of the important angas of bhakti. But he is not at fault for failing to perform the duties of varnashrama. If he by chance happens to commit some sin, there is no atonement prescribed for him. This is the opinion for those who know the secret of Vaishnava scriptures. So there are 64 limbs in devotional service. If he fails to perform that, then he is at fault. But if he fails to perform some rituals in the Varnashrama system, then there is no count of any sin. He need not have to do any prayashchita and he is not at fault. Okay, continue.
Yes, Mataji.
3 paragraphs.
Sri Rupa Goswami also says,
Which one? Before that, Dasa Vaishnava automatically becomes.
oh, I have, yeah.
Previous.
Yeah, tell me. There's thus a Vaishnava automatically becomes a Brahmana. This idea is also supported by Sanatan Goswami in his book Hari Bhakti Vilasa, which is the Vaishnava guide. Therein, he has clearly stated that any person who is properly initiated into the Vaishnava cult certainly becomes a Brahmana. As much as the metal known as Kamsa, bell metal, Kasa actually, Kasa known as bell metal is turned into gold by the mixture of mercury. A bona fide spiritual master under the guidance of authorities can turn anyone into the Vaishnava cult so that naturally he may come to the topmost position of a Brahmana.
Now read.
Yeah. So Srila Rupa Goswami warns, however, that if a person is properly initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, he should not think that simply by the acceptance of such initiation, his business is then finished. One still has to follow the rules and regulations very carefully. If after accepting the spiritual master and being initiated, one does not follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, then he is again fallen. One must be very vigilant to remember that he is a part and parcel of the transcendental body of Krishna, and that it is his duty as part and parcel to give service to the whole, or Krishna. If we do not render service to Krishna, then again we fall down. In other words, simply becoming initiated does not elevate one to the position of a high-class Brahmana. One also has to discharge the duties and follow the regulative principles very rigidly.
Continue.
Sri Rupa Goswami also says that if one is regularly discharging devotional service, there will be no question of a fall down. But even if circumstantially there is some fall down, the Vaishnava need have nothing to do with the prayashchita, the ritualistic ceremony for purification. If someone falls down from the principles of devotional service, he need not take to the prayashchita performance for reformation. He simply has to execute the rules and regulations for discharging devotional service. And this is sufficient for his reinstatement. This is the mystery of the Vaishnava devotional cult.
Continue.
Practically, there are 3 processes for elevating one to the platform of spiritual consciousness. These processes are jnana and bhakti. Ritualistic performances are in the field of karma. Speculative processes are in the field of jnana. One who has taken to bhakti, the devotional service of the Lord, need have nothing to do with karma or jnana. It has been already explained that pure devotional service is without any tinge of karma or jnana. Bhakti should have no philosophical speculation or ritualistic performances.
Svanya vilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. Now this line has been explained. Jnana karmadi anavritam. It is not having any tinge of karma or jnana. No rituals. Because everything is completely spiritual. Suppose somebody has fallen down, then he need not have to do any prayashchitta. He just has to again follow the rules and regulations. Api chet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadhureva samantavya samyak vibhasito hi saha. We have studied in Bhagavad Gita. Api chet suduracharo. He may be a sudurachara, but bhajate mam ananya bhak. But he is worshipping Krishna. He started again worshipping Krishna. That doesn't mean that on the strength of the holy name perform aparadhas. Namno baladhyasya papa buddhi. We are not talking about that. By some accidental mistake he has done, but then he can again regain to devotional service by just performing, just following the rules and regulations. This is most important. So, Anyavilashita Shunyam means there is no desire even to go to heavenly planet, no desire to go to Brahmaloka, no desire to come to earthly planet. There's no desire. There's no desire to go to lower planet. There's no desire for even liberation at Ashtanga Yoga that we studied in the previous chapter. Bhakti surpasses everything. Now, here, the purity of devotional services, bhakti is not dependent on any karma, nor any speculative knowledge. Bhakti is completely pure, because karma, jnana is according to one's own previous life impressions. According to that, you get particular caste, particular caste, like some varnas and some ashramas you are there. But again, bhakti is not dependent to any ashram. Bhakti is not dependent on any varna or any ashrama. Bhakti is for everyone. Everyone can perform bhakti. But karma and jnana, they are all dependent on your previous life impressions. How you are, what type of knowledge you have, everything is dependent on your previous life. What type of activities.
Hare Krishna Mataji, one small thing. This verse number 1.2.6364, it covers this 5, 6, 7, 8 para.
Now 65th verse. Yatha ekadashe sve sve adhikare ya nishtha saguna parikirtitah viparyayascha tudoshah syat ubhayoresha nishchayah. So 11th canto speaks about it. Steadiness in one's own position is declared to be actual piety, whereas deviation from one's position is considered impiety. In this way, the two are definitely ascertained. Swapada moolam bhajata priyasya tyaktanya bhavasya hari pareshah vikarma chepitam kathanche dhunoti sarvam hari samvishtah. So it is said, one who has given up all other engagement and has taken full shelter of the Lord, the Supreme Lord is very dear to the he has taken the full shelter, the lotus feet of Hari, the Supreme Lord, is very dear to the Lord. Indeed, if such a surrendered soul accidentally commits some sinful activity, the Lord, who is seated within everyone's heart, immediately takes away the reactions of such sin. Suppose he has given up everything and by some accident, he has done some mistake, but still it is not counted as mistake by Krishna. That is given here. Steadiness in one's position is declared actual piety. Deviation is considered impiety. So one has to be steady in whatever position he is, and suppose he is deviating, then that has been given. And by some accident he has deviated. Still Krishna forgives. That has also been given. Okay, read this. Ansruti Prabhu, you read.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. In this connection, Sri Rupa Goswami gives evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 21st chapter, verse 2, in which Lord Krishna says to Uddhava, the distinction between qualification and disqualification may be made in this way. Persons who are already elevated in discharging devotional service will never again take shelter of the process of rotative activity or philosophical speculation. If one sticks to devotional service and is conducted by regulative principles given by the authorities and acharyas, that is best qualification.
So if one sticks to the devotional service and is conducted by regulatory principles given by authorities, this is the best qualification.
Will I continue?
1 minute. Now here, the distinction between qualification and disqualification may be made in the way persons who are already elevated in discharging devotional service will never again take shelter of the process of fruitive activity or speculative philosophical speculation. The second line has been described, Jnana Karmadi Anavrutam. If he is sticking to the regulatory principle, then he is the best qualified person. That is the best qualification. Just follow whatever our acharyas have told. Today somebody was telling me, there is a great Maharaj, somebody not in this sampradaya, and not in this sampradaya. He was telling that suppose some people don't follow Ekadashi, some Vaishnava don't follow Ekadashi, we should not immediately criticize because Vaishnava is taking only Krishna Prasada. He may say some story, maybe that is right also. But we are not to follow that because Ekadashi has to be observed. Just now we saw that. Every Vaishnava has to perform the 64 limbs of devotional service which has been given, in which Ekadashi is also one of them. Only Ekadashi is prohibited for the residents of Purushottam Kshetra, that is Jagannath Puri. But when other Vaishnavas go to Jagannath Puri, they cannot honor Jagannath Prasadam that time. They can keep and take it next day. So it is not that Radharani is very unhappy because the story was told like this. Radharani is very unhappy because she is not getting to eat. For Krishna, on that day of Ekadashi, all the bhogas are made in the temple. Whatever bhogas are done in the other day, same bhoga is done on Ekadashi also. We cannot eat, but that doesn't mean Krishna cannot eat. For Krishna, there is no Ekadashi. In the house, we generally don't cook because who will eat? So much will be there. In temple, there is no restriction. There are so many people who come, we can distribute. In the house, hardly 2-3 people stay. In that also, if you cook so many bhogas and offer, and what you'll do with that? So that is why you don't do that. We offer only Ekadashi bhogas to Krishna. But that doesn't mean Krishna is restricted with the bhogas. So we have to follow whatever our scriptures has told us. Now 66th verse. Prathame tektva sudharmam charna bhujam harer bhajanna pakko atapate tato yadi yatra kova bhadrama buddhamashyakim kovarthapto abhajatam sudharmataha. Second chapter, 39th verse. You have this in the purport. Just see whether I'm right. Second chapter, Bhagavad Gita, 39th verse. Tektva sudharmam charnam bhujam harer bhajan apakvo adapate tato yadi yatra kavat dharmavadavashyakim kova tapto abhijitam sudharmataha. So what is the meaning? If somebody has given up his occupational duty and has taken up Krishna consciousness and then falls down, still there is no loss. But if a person performs his occupational duty very nicely, what is the use if he has not taken up to devotional service? So somebody check it is right, 2.39, 2.40.
It is Isha Te Vihita Sankhya Buddhi Yoga Trunu.
Wait, 2.39 or 2.40, just see the purport where it is. Prabhupada has put this in the purport.
And Prabhupada says, in this endeavor there is no loss of diminution.
Wait, I am just asking whether it is there in which verse. Just talk to the point. 2.40 or 2.39? In which verse Prabhupada has put this? Tektva sudharmam charnam bhujam harer bhajan apakvo athapate tato yadi. Just search na where it has been put. Prabhupada has quoted this verse in second chapter. Search. You have Bhagavad Gita with you? Check the verses quoted. Neha Vikramanasosti Pratyavayano Vidyate. In that it is there. Just see, check that. Who is checking? All are dependent on each other.
माता जी मैं चेक कर रहा हूँ, मैं स्क्रीन पे भी आ रहा है.
Neeraj Prabhu, check. Who is checking the verse? Take out your Bhagavad Gita book and check. Jumur, check.
माता जी 2.4 में 40 में ये स्क्रीन पे आ रहा है 2.40 पे.
In this Prabhupada has put that even if you have not done anything in devotion, so you have given up everything and you have joined Krishna consciousness, and there also you're not doing anything, still there is no loss. Then Prabhupada writes, what profit the man if he suffers the loss of the soul? Bible speaks about it. So this is the most important verse. So what misfortune can be there for a person who has given up bhakti, even if he was born in a low family? There is no loss if he does not complete bhakti, because impressions of bhakti, they continue in future life. But what is the use if he has done so much of prescribed duty and if he is not worshipping Krishna? What is the use? Even if he is 100% successful in his material life, still he has to start with 1%. Neha Vikramanashosti Pratyavayana Vatyate Swalpa. Even if he has done Swalpa, it is anyhow going to continue. That means there is no loss, no diminution. And if you have taken up devotional service, even if a small thing is done, that is also taken into account. Okay, read 66th verse. Hansrubi Prabhu, continue.
Yes, Madhuri.
Two paragraphs.
Yes. This statement is supported in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 5th chapter, verse 17, wherein Sri Narad Muni advises Vyasadeva thus: even if one does not execute his specific occupational duty, but immediately takes direct shelter of the lotus feet of Hari Krishna, there will be no fault on his part. And in all circumstances, his position is secure. Even if by some bad association he falls down while executing devotional service, or if he does not finish a complete course of devotional service and dies untimely, still he is not at a loss. A person who is simply discharging his occupational duty in Varna and Ashrama, however, with no Krishna consciousness, practically does not gain the true benefit of human life. The purport is that all conditioned souls who are engaged very frantically in activities for sense gratification without knowing that this process will never help them get out of material contamination are rewarded only with repeated birth and death. In the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated by Rishvadev to his sons: persons engaged in fruitic activities are repeatedly accepting birth and death, and until they develop the loving feeling of Vasudev, there will be no question of getting out from these stringent laws of material nature. As such, any person who is very seriously engaged in his occupational duty in the Varnas and Ashramas, and who does not develop love for Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev, should be understood to be simply spoiling his human form of life.
Okay. So they have spoiled their human form of life because they are not engaged in the worship of Vasudeva. He may be 100% successful in material life. He may be performing his Varna Ashrama, but that is not Daiva Varna Ashrama which is following. Daiva Varna Ashrama speaks about, today only in NOD class, Nector of the, in the morning Chaitanya Bhagavat class, we were speaking about Daiva Varna Ashrama. Daiva Varna Ashrama focuses on pleasing Krishna. But materialistic Varna Ashrama, they may be perfectly following the rules and regulations, but if they don't have any bhakti for Krishna, what is the use that has been given? Ekadashe agyayaiva gunan doshan mayadishtan swakan dharman santyajya sarvan mamrajet sacha sattamaha. The 11th canto speaks. He perfectly understands that the ordinary religious duties prescribed by me in various Vedic scriptures possess favorable qualities that purify the performer. And he knows that neglect of such duties constitutes a discrepancy in one's life. Having taken complete shelter of my lotus feet, however, a saintly person ultimately renounces such ordinary religious duties and worships me alone. He is thus considered the best among all living entities. Nirapeksha devotee. Kaivalya, Nirapeksha. So we have studied this also. So he is performing his duties to set an example. Somebody, Ananya Bhakti he is doing, for him it is not necessary that he has to perform the duties. Now Krishna shows what are the duties which has to be performed. Yedada achariti shreshtas tatta deve tarojana. So one has to perform the duties to set an example. But this person has no time for doing all these things because all the time is engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna. So Yamanacharya's verse is there, which says, I don't have time to do Sandhya Vandanam. I don't have time to go and take bath. I don't have time to do this and that because it is understood that I have done, because I don't have time to even chant. I am finding the time less to chant the holy name of Krishna. Because wherever I'm sitting, I'm just thinking about the name of Krishna. So holy name of Krishna has so much of power that a pure Vaishnava need not do anything except the holy name of Krishna. He should not be affected also by any of the circumstances he has to undergo. Even if there is some difficulty, he has to take it up, considering that to be the part of his karma. If that type of boldness is there, then he did not have to do any ritual. But as a sadhaka, we are affected. When we have bad health, we are affected, we go and sleep. We are not able to do anything. So that is why some ritualistic activity has been prescribed, so that one can be relieved from that misery for a sadhaka. But for a pure Vaishnava, holy name of Krishna is enough. That is enough. Okay. Vaishnava Gaur Prabhu, please read.
Hare Krishna. This is confirmed also in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th chapter, verse 32, in which the Lord says to Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, any person who takes shelter of me in complete surrender and follows my instructions, giving up all occupational duties, is to be considered the first-class man. In this statement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is understood that people who are generally attracted to philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruistic, political, and social welfare activities may be considered nice men only in the calculation of the material world. From Srimad Bhagavatam and other authentic Vedic scriptures, we learn further that if a person simply acts in Krishna consciousness and discharges devotional service, he is considered to be far, far better situated than all of those persons engaged in philanthropic, ethical, moral, altruistic, and social welfare activities. The same thing is still more emphatically confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 5th chapter, verse 41, in which Karabhajana Muni addresses Maharaj Nimi as follows.
Wait.
My dear King,
Wait. That is given the 68th verse, which again Prabhupada puts in the first chapter, 41st verse, I suppose. Deva Rishi Bhuta Pranam Pitulam Naking Karunaya Muni Charajam Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Parutta Kartam. These are all very important verses, highly quoted verses by Srila Prabhupada. Deva Rishi Bhuta Pranam Pitulam Naking Karunayam Muni Charajam. So one is not indebted to Deva, Rishi, then Apta, its family members, Nunam, men in general, then Pitrulam, the forefathers. Nakinkaru, he is not indebted to Deva, Rishi, Bhuta. Bhuta means living entities. When Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanyam, he has given up everything in the service of Lord, then he is not indebted. when he has 100% given, karmana manasa gira, everything to Krishna. Okay, continue. Three paragraphs.
The same thing is still more emphatically confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto 5th chapter verse 41, in
Prabhuji,
which
your
Karvajan Muni
voice is not
address.
coming nice. Voice is not coming good.
अभी आ रही है क्या?
आपका खींच खींच के आ रहा है. एक मिनट. दया सागर प्रभु, you read.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. The same thing is still more emphatically confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 5th chapter, verse 41, in which Karabhajana Muni addresses Maharaja Nimi as follows: My dear king, if someone give up his occupational duty as they are prescribed by the different varnas and ashramas, but takes complete shelter, surrendering himself unto the lotus feet of the Lord, such a person is no more a debtor, nor has he any obligation to perform the different kind of activities we render to the great sages, ancestors, living entities, and family and society members, nor he has any need to bother executing the 5 kinds of yagyas, sacrifices, for becoming free from sinful contamination. Simply by discharging devotional service, he is freed from all kinds of obligations. The purport is that as soon as man takes his birth, he is immediately indebted to so many sources. He is indebted to the great sages because he profits by reading their authoritative scriptures and books. For example, we take advantage of the books written by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva has left for us all the Vedas. Before Vyasadeva's writing, the Vedic literature was simply heard, and disciples would learn the mantras quickly by hearing and not by reading. Later on, Vyasadeva thought it wise to write down the Vedas because at this age people are short memories and unable to remember all the instructions given by the spiritual master. Therefore, he left all the Vedic knowledge in the form of books such as Puranas, Vedanta, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavatam. There are many other sages like Shankaracharya, Gautama Muni, and Narada Muni, to whom we are indebted because we take advantage of their knowledge. Similarly, we are obliged to our forefathers because we take our birth in a particular family where we take all advantages and inherit property. Therefore, we are indebted to the forefathers and have to offer them pinda, prasada, after they are dead. Similarly to the people in general, we are also indebted, as well as to our relatives, friends, and even animals, such as cows and dogs, who render us so many services. In this way, we are indebted to the demigods, to the forefathers, to the sages, to the animals, and to society in general. It is our duty to respect them all by proper discharge of service. But by the one stroke of devotional service, if someone gives up all obligations and simply surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is no longer a debtor, nor obliged to any other source of benefit.
So, first chapter, 18th chapter, 66 verse, where Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshishyami Ma Shuchah. Krishna says, don't fear, give up all varieties of dharma, which is only entertaining or encouraging sense gratification. Because which type of dharma Krishna has told to give up? Kaitava dharma. Because where Bhagavad Gita ends, Bhagavatam begins. Bhagavad speaks about dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmasaranam satam vedyam vastamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon moolanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kurte Kimva Pare Ishwaraha Sadhyartya Bhartate Tirupidi Shushushvitakshana. So where Bhagavad Gita ends, Sarvadharman Parityajya, then which dharma has to be given up? Because Krishna says, Yada yada dharmasya glarir bhavati bharam tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshishyami. Sorry, Yada yada dharmasya glarir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam dharmasya tadatmanam sujamiham. I come to establish religion. And suddenly Krishna says, give up all sort of religiosity. So which type of religiosity Krishna has told to give up? That is kaitava dharma. Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo. Nirmat saranam satam. Just become nirmatsara. Give up that religiosity where only matsara bhava is growing. That is enviousness. And enviousness is the part of the material world. So materialistic activity has to be given up. Or the sense gratificatory activity has to be given up. So that has been spoken. So there is only one dharma for the soul. What is that? Dharma swanishtita pumsam vishwakshena kathasvi na utpaditi shramaya kevana. Worship is the only work. And worship involves four things. Tasmadikena manasa Bhagavan satatampati shottavya kirtitavya deya pujyascha nityada. There are only four activities. That is shottavya, kirtitavya, dheya, pujya. Beyond this, there is no other work. So that is why Krishna says, just give up all sort of religiosity. Have no fear. Okay. Narayana, read.
In Bhagavad Gita also, the Lord says, give up all your occupations and just become surrendered unto me. I give you assurance that I shall give you protection from all sinful reactions. One may think that because he is surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he will not be able to perform all of his other obligations. But the Lord says repeatedly, don't hesitate. Don't consider that because you are giving up all other engagements, there will be some flaw in your life. Don't think like that. I will give you all protection. This is the assurance of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Should I continue?
69th verse, wait, 70th verse. Agastya samhitayam yatha vidhi nishedhau tu muktam naivopasarpa sarpatah tatha na sprushau ramopasakam pashakham vidhi purvakam. Just as rules and in Agastya Samhita it is said, just as rules and prohibitions of the Smriti scriptures do not approach a liberated person, the rules and prohibitions applicable to Vaidika or Tantrika worship also do not touch the worshipper of Rama. So pure devotee is not affected by any rules and regulations. It doesn't touch. Rules and prohibitions mentioned in this verse are those belonging to Smritis, dealing with Varnashrama to the material gunas. They are not applicable to the liberated persons beyond the gunas. Worshipper of Rama, a Vaishnava, is also not obligated to follow the rules of worship according to the Vedas or Tantrika texts. This is because those rules enjoin worship of devatas. He still follows rules of bhakti as a follower of Vedic bhakti. So Tantrika way of worship, Vaidika way of worship, they encourage devatas worship. But for a devotee, he is beyond these rules and regulations. Because Devatas worship come in the modes of nature. A person who is liberated or has gone beyond the modes of nature, for them these rules and regulations doesn't apply. In the same way, for a pure devotee of Vishnu, such a wonderful Vaishnava, for him also such Vaidi Bhakti, or you can say Vaidi rules and regulations, or Tantrika rules and regulations doesn't apply. Okay, continue. Narayana.
There is additional evidence in the Agastya Samhita. As the regulative principles of scriptures are not required by a liberated person, so the ritualistic principles indicated in the Vedic supplements are also not required for a person duly engaged in the service of Lord Chandra. In other words, the devotees of Lord Ramachandra or Krishna are already liberated persons and are not required to follow all the regulative principles mentioned in the ritualistic portions of the Vedic literature.
Okay. Ekadashe स्वपादमूलं भजत प्रियस्य त्यक्तान्यभावस्य हरि परेशः विकर्म यच्चोपतितं कथञ्चित् धुनोति सर्वं हृदि सन्निविष्टः. So in the 11th canto it is said, one who has thus given up all other engagements and has taken full shelter of Hari, the Lord, is very dear to the Lord. Indeed, if such a surrendered soul accidentally commits some sinful activity, the Supreme Lord, who is seated within everyone's heart, immediately takes away the reactions to such sins. So accidentally he has committed some sin. Still it is not counted as sin for Krishna because he has given up everything and taken the shelter of Hari. Okay, read the last one.
Similarly, in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, verse number 42, Karabhanja Muni addresses King Nimi and says, "My dear king, a person who has given up the worship of the demigods and has completely concentrated his energy in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has become very, very dear to the Lord. As such, if by chance or mistake he does something which is forbidden, there is no need for him to perform any purificatory ceremonies. Because the Lord is situated within his heart, he takes compassion for the devotee's accidental mistake and corrects him from within. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita in many places that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna takes a special interest in his devotees and declares emphatically that nothing can cause his devotees to fall down. He is always protecting them."
He is always protecting the devotees. Avashya Rakshide Krishna. Okay. Any doubts? Any doubts? No doubt.
I have doubt.
Yeah.
So in this, it is mentioned that there is no obligation to perform any kind of activity to forefathers or to any other people.
Provided
So,
he has given up everything. Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanam.
okay. And so does this even mean that for establishing temples and all those things, we don't have to do Vastu Puja or all these activities?
That is doing for Krishna, not for personal thing. There's a lot of difference. He is not doing for his personal. When Prabhupada used to do Vastu, he used to see the Vastu of the temple. That is for Krishna, but he never saw about his own life. There's a lot of difference. So for the temple, everything is done. All the and that is done for the pleasure of Krishna only. It is not done for any personal benefit. And again, holy name is enough, but we are not at the level of Haridas Thakur. That is again a problem. Holy name is enough, but Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanam. Like how Haridas Thakur has given up everything, has dedicated for the holy name, that power a sadhaka doesn't have. That is why a sadhaka, when he has to worship the Lord, he has to clear the difficulties which comes on the way.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Any other question? No question. Nainu is ready. Chant. 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 Unmute yourself. Hari Bol. Voice is not coming.
Mataji. Can you sing song?
What?
Can you sing a song?
Sing.
Krishna Mora Chukara Kishore Kole Kili
Which song this is?
Radha Krishna Pranamura.
Acha. Over.
Mora Chukara Kishore Kalendira Kule Kili Kadambir Bandhu Ya Bushade Dujana.
Okay.
Kripa
Acha.
Vaishnavi
Namaskar Prabhupada ki jai.